At Google I/O 2026, the traditional search engine model was fundamentally replaced by a massive live network architecture. The system no longer functions by simply indexing pages and waiting for a user to input a query. It has moved into a stateful environment designed for continuous background execution. Google is now operating as a centralized Layer 1 agentic network. To understand the impact on Web3, we have to analyze this change as a fundamental shift in protocol infrastructure rather than a simple software update. Google is integrating concepts like intent-based routing and continuous oracles into its own proprietary stack. These capabilities are powered by closed-source models and private compute clusters rather than open-source code and node consensus. This architectural shift puts Google's centralized compute in direct competition with the automated workflows currently being built on decentralized networks. The foundation of this new infrastructure relies on two core engines, Gemini 3.5 Flash and Gemini Omni. To run these engines continuously, Google removed the daily prompt limits used in previous iterations. This chart compares Ethereum's gas fee variables with Google's new compute-used model. Pricing is determined by the specific load a task places on the network. The system calculates the raw complexity to determine how many resources are allocated for execution. Larger context windows require significantly more processing power, which directly increases the cost of the operation. Simple text generation carries a light weight, while multimodal video processing triggers a much heavier computational charge. These combined metrics dictate which subscription tier a user must maintain to keep their agents active. This metering of resources maps directly to the Web3 concept of optimizing compute scarcity. By pricing tasks based on load, Google can manage network congestion during periods of high infrastructure demand. Precise compute metering is the necessary first step for Google to transition from a search engine into an autonomous agent economy. That compute power is currently being funneled into Gemini Spark. Spark is a 24/7 autonomous agent. It functions by spinning out smaller nodes that navigate through a continuous stream of live data. These information agents operate constantly in the background without needing a manual prompt from the user to start a task. They are tasked with scraping the web and parsing social feeds as information is published. They also integrate real-time financial data into their active background processing loop. This diagram shows the contrast between a decentralized oracle and Google's centralized pull. The agents monitor the internet to identify state changes. By ingesting this off-chain data and making it actionable within the network, Google is functioning as a unified, centralized oracle. This oracle relies on proprietary compute rather than the consensus of a distributed node network. This centralization challenges the current model of decentralized oracles, which rely on fragmentation for security. Controlling this oracle layer allows Google to establish the definitive record of the off-chain world for its automated workflows. Google's agents connect to the retail economy through a cross-platform hub called the Universal Cart. The cart integrates with Search, YouTube, and Gmail to execute transactions across different platforms. We can see how this works by tracing a transaction backward. It starts with an intent, like building a PC, and resolves through a series of automated solvers. The system spawns agents to ping various retailer databases to find the necessary parts. The agent autonomously verifies that all selected parts are compatible with one another. It checks price histories across different vendors to ensure the purchase is optimized for the current market. Finally, the system triggers the transaction automatically using the payment credentials stored in Google Wallet. This process maps directly to the intent-based architectures currently being developed in the crypto space. By managing the selection, verification, and payment steps, Google has implemented a version of account abstraction for the general consumer. Google has successfully integrated an intent engine into a massive distribution network, removing the friction that often stalls decentralized alternatives. To keep users connected to these agents, Google introduced hardware like Android XR glasses. On mobile, they introduced Android Halo, a persistent UI bar that shows the real-time status of background agents. This allows a user to monitor exactly what their autonomous bots are working on without leaving their current app. This persistent UI performs a role similar to a block explorer, providing a live view of background network activity. Scaling an automated network of this size creates an immediate need for data verification and provenance. Gemini Omni Flash can generate hyper-realistic media, which increases the likelihood of synthetic content appearing across the internet. Google is addressing this by embedding SynthID and C2PA credentials directly into its search and Chrome architecture. By integrating these standards at the browser level, Google is attempting to solve media authenticity through a centralized cryptographic ledger rather than a decentralized protocol. This chart compares the two paths for automated infrastructure. While the decentralized stack remains a work in progress, Google's Agentic stack now dominates the frame. Google has built the automated environment that many in the crypto community have been theorizing about for years. However, this system requires full integration with Google's ecosystem and a subscription fee ranging from $100 to $200 a month. The infrastructure for a fully automated agent economy is no longer theoretical. It is online and centralized. Google is leveraging its massive scale in user data and its global distribution pipelines to cement this lead. The challenge for Web3 is whether decentralized protocols can offer a sovereign alternative before this centralized architecture becomes the global standard for the automated world.